Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fanfiction Tapes. I am your host, Maya, and today I am joined by.
Oh, hello. I am steamed.
And as always, I am our producer, Ian.
Today's episode is all about platonic shipping, if you didn't guess from the title. Which I suppose bears introduction as a concept. Maybe for those of you who didn't catch our episode kind of giving an overview of shipping, but something that happens in fandoms, usually mostly when this is established within the work, is there's characters that are friends or seem to be friendly, and it's not uncommon for fans to want to take that relationship a little bit further than it's developed in the show or the book or the game, and explore it a little bit more. So I guess just to open up and kind of get the ball rolling, let's talk about some of our personally favorite platonic ships and what about them we like. What makes us drawn to that. I've mentioned previously that I am a big sucker for characters who are they don't seem like they'd get along well together, but they do. Characters who kind of have sharply contrasting personalities, just being friends.
Yeah, there's some of my favorite platonic relationships are kind of like that. I think I mentioned on our first relationships episode that I really enjoy the dynamic in the Dresden Files between Harry and Michael Carpenter. They're very very different people, but they have a similar line of work, and I guess somewhat similar ethics.
Yeah. There's a few, I think, important differences
Yeah,
for the two of them.
there are.
And I think that's part of what makes the contrast between them really good. I was trying to think of an example from something I've been watching recently, a show by the name of Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Oh boy.
Mm.
That show has some material. Probably because
Yeah.
there's so much of it.
Yeah, it's long. I believe we're on maybe episode 30.
Yeah.
Steve and I have been watching it together. Whew. I think really the best example of this from the show would be Mittermeier and what's his name?
Royenthal?
Royenthal. There we go.
Yeah.
Remember there was the RUE sound. They're both very, very different people. Royenthal is a lot more reserved and not much of a ladies' man, whereas Mittermeier feels a bit like a golden retriever of a human to me so far,
I think that's accurate.
who has, I believe, also been married by the time of the show for quite some time.
I do like the Yang and Julian. The whole setup of Yang as obviously the genius who hates what he's doing and does not want to do it.
Yeah.
But Julian looks up to him and wants to do it, and he's having to, keep him alive because what he wants to do is fly fighter jets in a 150-year hell war.
Yeah, and that tends to have high casualty rates.
Yeah.
That is also a good dynamic and one that I enjoy watching.
I haven't watched Legend of the Galactic Heroes, so I don't really know what you're talking about here.
It's
So
a
I'm
bit
just
of a
I'm just thinking of some of the other things that I've read recently, and I just keep coming back to Lock Tomb,
Oh boy.
as we do. I cannot wait to see more of the adventures of the Tower Princess.
Oh boy. Talk about a platonic friendship from hell.
Oh yes.
Can you call that a friendship?
I mean, they have friendship bracelets.
I can't refute that.
I'm not sure that Ianthe is really capable of having friends, but it's so. I've mentioned before I like watching drama from a distance, and everything Ianthe touches turns into just.
Curdled milk?
Oh, uh-huh. I don't think that's a friendship that I would want to be, but I do like watching it from afar.
Yeah, the Lock Tomb actually has some pretty excellent platonic dynamics. Gideon and Cam to some degree, as well as actually probably my favorite from that series is Harrow and Palamedes.
Yeah, they get along. That's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it's a little different from my usual taste in terms of like friendship dynamics because Palamedes and Harrow are very, very much alike. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're narrative foils.
Palamedes is Harrow with a healthy home environment.
Yeah, pretty much.
As healthy as you get under the circumstances.
Yeah. Healthier.
I feel like probably Abigail and Magnus may have had the healthiest home relationship out of characters we've seen.
Yeah. Same person under the hood, completely opposite public-facing personalities.
The dynamic between Palamedes and Harrow is different from my usual taste because, right, the bells and not the bells and whistles, the gears and internal engine shit of people that make up Palamedes and Harrow are very, very similar when they aren't outright identical. It's just kind of that starting point that's really changed who they are. And I mean, obviously, Palamedes and Harrow are very different. For one, I'm pretty certain Palamedes eats regular meals more often, which is not a high bar. He also does not make soup.
No, he doesn't.
But they have kind of that different starting point, and that shapes them into two very similar but also very different people. Kind of harkens back to Michael and Dresden.
Yeah, similar enough to get along, different enough that they don't hate each other.
But also do not trust each other at first.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some others that I've enjoyed, but part of the reason I wanted to talk about this month was that I think that not enough anything really gets put into platonic relationships in writing.
Another one you've mentioned before, Kate and Jace in Arcane.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the few male and female platonic relationships that I can just flat out think of.
I do enjoy seeing a good platonic relationship between a male and a female character that is very clearly staying platonic.
Yeah, and as a gal who grew up only having guy friends, not seeing that did kind of suck. There are some, and excuse me a moment while I go on my gay rant. Man, I'd scheduled this for later. Heteronormativity and compulsory heteronormativity really kind of puts a damper on a lot of the fun that can be had with writing friendships. Because there's often a lot of expectations of things turning out a certain way. Something that happens nearly universally is there's a male and female lead. It's an expectation that they get together. And that's... Come on. We can do better. I think, actually, one of the few series I've read as a kid where that didn't happen was the Five Kingdoms series by Brandon Mull, which his works are... I think there's a bit of, like, just kind of meant for a younger audience syndrome in some of them. But they are also definitely dark. And there is a pretty solid relationship between one of the female leads and one of the male leads throughout the series that I don't believe becomes romantic at any point, which was very nice to see.
I'm trying to think if there were any series that I read as a kid that had male-female friendships that didn't result in relationships, and the closest...
Animorphs?
That's the closest I'm getting, only on account of... You had canon pairs, but an imbalance of sexes, and as far as can be implied from the text, I don't think it was ever... It is a 90s series, so I don't think it ever would have been, like, stated outright whether anyone was LGBTQ. You had canon pairings between Jake and Cassie, and between Rachel and Tobias, and then you've got Marco, who is friends with all of them. So he never ends up in a relationship, in a romantic relationship with anyone else in the group. Neither does Aximeli, but he's an alien. Although interspecies relationships are a canon thing in the Animorphs universe.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, hasn't the author come out and said, yeah, Tobias is basically trans? I may be misremembering that. I believe I've heard that.
Boy, I don't know if I've heard that, but I know that there's a lot of fans read him as trans. He definitely reads pretty strongly as neurodivergent.
He's the one who gets trapped in the hawk, yeah?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that's what I'm remembering, but
there's
I don't
there's
trust my memory.
that whole issue of being in the wrong body, I think, is...
Yeah, it's pretty hard to write that and not to some degree have it be trans.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not you're trying to do it. Okay, now I kind of want to I want to directly address something I've kind of alluded to during the episode, and that is specifically what are often referred to as queer platonic relationships, which is basically a platonic relationship that goes a lot further than what is normally considered platonic, but is at the same time not explicitly romantic. And these are common often in more LGBTQ circles, or specifically, I believe, amongst polyamorous groups.
I think it's also pretty common amongst aromantic.
Yes, that as well, which actually brings us to part of the focus of the episode, given that when this episode will be airing, it will be about time for Aromantic Awareness Week. And given that we just done an episode on all about romance, we wanted to do something that also featured queer folks who often get left out of some of the spotlight and forgotten. So it is very, very possible to have close relationships that aren't romantic, and I think that's honestly some of the best stuff. Like, Thomas and Pug and Raymond E. Feist's Magician series. They're, as near as I can tell, pretty explicitly not romantically attracted to each other, but they're very close friends from a young age, and through the plot of the series they get separated, and that separation changes them. And I don't necessarily think the author intended them to be queer platonic, but definitely the way they are at the start, that's one reading of it that I could see. Gosh, and I had another one I wanted to mention. It's escaping me now. This is why I need to write things down.
Any hints?
Do you have any?
Well, no, but if you recognize like some of it, I might recognize part of it.
You would, in fact, probably recognize it. The problem is I'm drawing a blank.
Right.
Most of my recently read books are not in this room. Oh, shoot, actually. The book that, Soft wrote. Soft Quartz. Which let me go and dig up, that title, because I know I have that written down somewhere. That one is, as an aside, pretty good depiction of polyamory and writing, which is nice to see, but I believe has some discussion of queer platonic relationships within it, which was nice to read. Also, I generally enjoyed it. Also, all of the chapter titles are really funny meme references, which I appreciated. Yeah, The Fool, the Lovers, the Devil, which me and you would probably recognize as being names inspired by tarot cards. Although, like, the title is taken from specific tarot cards. I don't know actually the meanings of those. They are definitely, at least name-wise, very thematically appropriate to characters within the series. Or series? As far as I know, it's just one book.
What was the title again?
The Fool, the Lovers, the Devil.
The Fool, the Lovers, the Devil. Okay.
By Riley Quinn.
So, as someone who's a little bit into tarot, the Fool is typically represents someone young and inexperienced, naive, like on the Rider-Waite tarot depicts a young man with a bindle, looking up and apparently about to step off a cliff. And then that was The Fool, the Lovers, and the Devil, right?
Yes.
So the interesting thing about the Lovers and the Devil, at least in the Rider-Waite tarot, which is one of the more well-known arts, the Lovers and the Devil have sort of mirrored imagery. Both of them depict a man and a woman standing facing each other in the lower half of the image, and then a larger figure behind them. But on the Lovers, it's an angelic figure, and on the Devil, it's the devil.
Right.
The meanings of the cards, the Lovers represents a close relationship, and the Devil, they both actually they also both carry implications of options and choices. The Lovers is typically implies a crossroads, whereas the Devil implies like a feeling of restraint that may or may not be true. I don't know how much any of this.
Wow. That was some excellent fucking picks from the author.
Oh.
Those are basically all themes within the book.
Interesting.
That was wow. Okay, I'm actually gonna have to go text her and go, yeah, so someone just explained to me the tarot cards. Because that was, yeah, described pretty accurately most of the book. Now, it is, I will say, an adult romance, so for folks who aren't interested in seeing that kind of stuff, it's in there. But it is a very well-written romance, I will say. That is, admittedly, kind of the point of the book. That's the main focus, but there are well-done, I think, queer platonic relationships within it. Darn, okay, I'm going a little bit faster than I'd wanted. Yeah. But that's alright. I think this next one could take us a while. Advice we might have for writing platonic ships.
Everybody in this voice call who has actually written something before, say I. Yeah. I guess you might have some advice, but I think for me and Steamed, all we can say is what we like to read.
And that is, I will say, almost as useful, if not more useful, than advice from a writer.
Okay, I've written things, Phil, but you see what I've written, and I don't think I have any contributions here.
I liked the steampunk thing.
Wait, I don't even remember that. What?
Part of the reason I remember it is because it went hard. This was mostly something you were telling me in the car.
Oh, that's not even what I was referring to.
No, I know you were talking about that. I refuse to bring its name onto the podcast.
As it should be.
And I would actually refute that a bit. There was definitely creative writing going into that.
Okay, no, yes, but like character writing, that's simply
there
not
was
something
less
I've
of
ever
that.
attempted.
Well, you're going to have to for the Lancer game.
Oh, shoot. You're right.
But, yeah, so first thing I'd like to open with this, I guess, when we're actually giving advice and not shitposting, is don't be afraid to just have a relationship be platonic. Don't feel like you have to give your readers a romantic relationship, because a shoehorned romantic relationship that doesn't work is is much, much worse than none at all. No romantic relationship is perfectly fine in pretty much any piece of media. But actually, I recall seeing a dating sim game on Steam that has specifically aromantic options. That was actually one that put it on my radar of things to investigate later, because that's inclusivity I didn't expect to see on Steam. And it also indicates there might be other sapphic options. Which, as we all know, is why I'm here. But romance isn't the be-all, end-all, and you shouldn't prioritize it to the detriment of the other relationships within a story. And that is actually something, is prioritize relationships if you're partly leaning on character writing, because it's going to be less interesting if you've got, we talked about last month a lot about characters. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, actually we didn't. Well, we did, but we only talked about it a little bit.
Mentioned, we brought up characters in I think the beginning, one of the begin at the beginning episodes.
Yes.
And we are planning to focus more on character archetypes and stuff next month.
Yes. Steve, I believe you're going to... I thought I heard you start to say something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Fel, the stuff I've read, is probably not the target audience you're aiming for, but I have read...
I would not say that Space Dracula would be amongst our target audience, no.
Entire series where a lot of them actually had really good, relationship writing focusing on the main cast. Probably space opera stuff closer to space opera stuff. And 99% of them never had anything like romantic come up as a topic. It just wasn't relevant. And they were, which isn't to say the relationships weren't really well written. It's just that's not what the books were interested in, and that's fine, I think.
Yeah, that's actually a much more concise way of saying what I was trying to say. Something I did want to bring up with respect to doing non-romantic relationships is, Brandon Sanderson's pretty famous series, The Cosmere. Or, should The Cosmere even be called a series?
Cosmere's... Whenever I'm telling people about it...
I think you can call The Cosmere a series.
Well,
because you've also got Mistborn and Stormlight, which are definitely series.
Yeah.
It is a meta-series. A hyper-series, if you will.
Yeah. I always refer to it as a setting.
That is certainly accurate.
I mean, but the thing that gets me is that The Cosmere as a whole also has a plot.
Yeah, it does. I suppose. Yeah, hyper series is an interesting term. Makes me think, because it is like if an ordinary plot is one dimensional, Cosmere is definitely multidimensional.
Yes, it's a series of series
running at various concurrencies and interweaving with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, just. Teravangian's diagram, actual depiction of Brandon Sanderson's flying tracker.
So, Maya, what were you thinking of as examples of platonic relationships? In Cosmere?
For one, Wax and Wayne in Mistborn Era 2.
Mm-hmm.
And to a certain degree, Renette and Wayne. Yeah, Renette and Wayne. I get Wax and Wayne confused.
Yeah, Renette and Wayne. Wayne is definitely pursuing her romantically at the first, but then he gets a clue. He's barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, that was actually something I appreciated him doing, is having a character who kinda is one of those clueless dudes who then learns and does better.
Yeah, I think that might be a good way to describe Wayne's arc in general, just as a side note.
Yes, that is
his entire thing is learn and do better.
Yeah.
But back to platonic relationships in the Cosmere.
Yes.
On the subject of Mistborn, Vin and Kelsier.
That's right. It's been so long since I read Era 1 that I don't really think about that much. But yeah, you're right. Male lead and female lead working together for pretty much the whole first book.
Yeah.
And there's nothing romantic that ever happens or is ever gonna happen.
It's explicitly stated at one point that Kelsier at least views Vin as the daughter that he never had.
Yeah, I mean, given what happened to his wife, I can see why.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that.
But also, let's go for I know I'd like to do one where one of the involved characters isn't so fucked up.
This is still Cosmere we're talking about, right?
Okay, fair.
Okay, but yeah, come on, you're going to talk about Wax? I don't think he clears that bar.
Wax clears that bar. He's fine.
No, Wade.
Wayne's mostly there.
I think.
Are you thinking of Wax and Marasi?
Well, that one gets
good.
pretty explicitly romantic at one point, yeah?
Does
or no, I'm thinking of the...
No.
It's very similar to Wayne and Renette in that Marasi very clearly has a crush on Wax at the beginning, and at least I don't read Wax as ever reciprocating that.
Oh yeah, no, Wax doesn't ever reciprocate. Yeah. I had a sieve for a brain moment again.
Understandable.
Yeah, okay. Wax is fairly put together. I don't think
I was thinking of Wayne and Milan.
That is not in any way well adjusted.
No.
No. Like I said, sieve for a brain moment.
Okay, this might be a controversial take.
Oh no. I'm scared.
Kaladin and Shallan, I view as a platonic relationship.
Yeah, I mean
that's canon.
Within the canon text of the work as it is, Kaladin and Shallan is currently platonic. I could see, and would actually like to see...
I know that there's a very, very popular threesome ship between Kaladin, Adolin, and Shallan.
Yeah.
I mean, there is whatever's going on with Vale, but that's a lot to unpack.
I subscribe to the headcanon that Kaladin is Arrow and possibly Ace.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. I could see that quite easily for Kaladin. Has he ever, actually expressed interest in anyone in the series?
He does spend most of the series in the common Sanderson bucket of bigger issues.
That is true.
There's his flashback chapters in
Oh, you're right. Yep.
What the first one, Way of Kings, with him and what is her name? It begins with an L. The local daughter of the local light-eyed lord. She seems to express some interest to him, and he seems to be absolutely clueless about it.
I mean, it is Kaladin. He don't people too good.
This is true, but he never really gets any better at romantic relationships. There's an entire relationship between him and one of the women in the Skybreakers that happens between books 2 and 3, I think.
Oh gosh, you're right. I'd forgotten about that.
They get together and break up off screen.
Wait, no, not Skybreakers, Windrunners.
Windrunners, sorry, yes.
Skybreakers.
I had a brain for a Steve moment.
Sanderson does a really good job with relationships in general, I feel. It's actually kind of, at least at this point, his relationship writing in some of his earlier works, I think, could use some work. Elantris.
That's an early one.
It is also I'm pretty certain that was his first published novel, and those flaws that aside, it is pretty darn good. But that should perhaps be saved for when we do actually talk about the Cosmere later.
Yes. We are planning to do a lot more talking about the Cosmere at the end of April.
A whole entire episode of it. I wonder how on earth we'll fit it into an hour.
There's probably going to be so much that'll have to leave on the cutting room floor.
Oh, sadly. Actually, now it's been a while since I've read these books, so I might be misremembering, but The Expanse might also do some good platonic relationships.
Oh boy, I don't know if I can. I still haven't read those books. They're on my TBR list. I've watched most of the show except for the last season.
I know I've read the first 4, but remembering that can be tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the first one feels almost like its own series. There is some kind of shoehorned romance in the first book, from what I recall. But there's also some pretty decent platonic relationships. In particular, I believe, between a detective and his partner. That's really good. I've been meaning to reread those books for ages, and I've never been able to make myself do it.
Which books again?
Expanse.
Oh,
I just mentioned this like yesterday.
Yeah.
And
Good.
also 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anything where it's like a spaceship with a crew setting is going to be a goldmine for stuff like that, I feel like.
Because, I mean, imagine spending months to years in a small box with, like, 9 other people.
I don't know about you, but that sounds like hell to me.
Given that that's kind of my dream career, I kind of think I can't say that sounds like hell. Yeah, I don't know. If I liked the 9 people enough, it could be fine. I've slept in a submarine.
Yeah.
It can't exactly get worse than that. I've actually slept in smaller confines than that, but I do not seek to repeat those circumstances again. Do we have anything else we want to mention?
I'm just along for the ride.
I mean, unless you'd like to elaborate, I guess, more on the sticking people in a spaceship leading to interesting relationship dynamics.
I don't know. Not really. I mean, it feels like a good shortcut.
Removes almost all environmental distractions. If what you've got is a handful of people in a room and you're telling a story that's set there, it's almost certainly going to involve the interactions between those people more than most other stuff.
Yeah, I think this means I need to read more stuff that counts to stuffing several people in a box.
Which isn't necessarily just sci-fi.
That's true.
No, this is probably still sci-fi, but I read one really out there take on it, where it was a World War II destroyer set to an alternate timeline.
Wacky.
The creativity bar, pretty high. You could do some wacky things with it.
Yeah, you're giving me ideas already, which is not helpful.
Write that down. All right. So, I guess that's probably all we really are having to talk about right now.
Well, do we have anything in the mailbag, Ian?
Unfortunately, we don't have anything. We haven't received any mail yet. If you listening want to send us something to talk about on the podcast, give us an email at fanfictapes@gmail.com. This will be getting onto YouTube at some point.
Yeah, our YouTube integration is down.
There's Acast is having some technical difficulties. If it continues long enough, I mean, this episode is going to be coming out in the 19th, so hopefully that'll be fixed by then. Assuming that you can listen to this on YouTube, leave us a comment there. We enjoy hearing from our listeners, or we will enjoy hearing from our listeners.
We are also on Twitter at fanfictiontapes.
And you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I don't know if Spotify allows for text reviews, but if you could go ahead and leave us stars there. If you leave us a good review, we might read it on the show. So Maya, what's our prompt or challenge this week?
Okay, our prompt for this week, I'm going to blame our guest from last week for kind of giving me an idea for something a little bit angstier.
Ooh.
Two friends are in over their heads. How do they say goodbye? And Jay, if you're listening, this is your fault. Sorry, what were you saying, Ian? I kind of talked over you there.
I was just saying, for the 9th.
Oh, that's depressing.
Uh-huh. You were the one who brought the angst prompt.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, one last thing before we go. It is Black History Month, and we have been trying our best as a crew of mostly white folks to shout out Black authors and creators. So this episode, I would like to give a recommendation to read Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents by Octavia Butler. I am currently working my way through Parable of the Sower. It is an excellent read, but it is emotionally hard, especially at these times, because it paints a frighteningly close picture to current times. It is still a very good read. She was an excellent writer. Go read Octavia Butler. So, that, I think, will do it for this week. I have been Ian.
I have been Maya.
And I have been steamed.
We still don't have an outro. Bye.